Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sneha and welcome to the first book haul of 2022. I went on a little bit of a binge of buying books. Some of them were intentional, some of them there was a very good reason, and because of that I've accumulated quite a bit of collection since we last met, and yeah, that's what I'm here to show and talk about. The main reason for me buying so many books is because Westland Books, which is a publisher here in India, has been closed down by Amazon, which is their parent company. The decision was a little bit out of the blue. They just announced it on February 1st, and there were a lot of news articles making the rounds about how after Feb, I think 28th, the publisher will be recalling all of those books and they will be pulped. So I wanted to collect as many books that I can for posterity's sake, and then slowly make my way through them. So yeah, that's primarily the biggest reason for my binge in February. But I have a few other books also to show you, some fun finds. I think, yeah, that's a long introduction, so let's start off. I went to Churchgate in South Mumbai, where there are a lot of roadside thrift booksellers, and I got some really amazing finds. Once again, I always do, so I'm excited to show them to you. So let's start. The most beautiful find of my thrift was Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. So I found this in the Everyman's Library edition, and I just love these editions so much. They look so grown up, they look so classy, and they look so lovely on the bookshelf. As you can see, I have two others, and this one is also thrifted. I have a video on that. I'll link it up above if you're interested. Now, if I open the dust jacket of this is a blue hardcover, and it's just so beautiful. I've heard about this classic a lot, but I've never really delved into it. But I know that a lot of people praise Italo Calvino's writing and his beautiful prose and his settings and his atmosphere. So really looking forward to this, and so happy at having found this copy, and I got it at a great price. I don't remember it, but yeah, great deal. Then in the same store, I also picked up Lifting the Veil by Ismat Chugtai. Ismat Chugtai is an Indian author, and she wrote primarily during the partition years in the early 1930s, 40s, 50s. She is also an Urdu writer, so this has been translated into English by M. Asaduddin, and I've never read Chugtai, very shamefacedly she says, but I'm excited to read her, and this is a bunch of short stories, and I've heard about a few short stories of hers which are like really amazing, and this collection has them, so excited to read them as well. So then we have another thrifted gorgeous copy. This is White Teeth by Zadie Smith. This is in a vintage ink collection, so it has all these like gorgeous illustrations. They're kind of like tattoos, so I think this is meant to be like a tattoo inspired cover. I've never read Zadie Smith. I've heard so many great things about her. I think she was very popular before Sally Rooney came and swept the millennial demographic, and Zadie Smith I think is kind of like for the older people like me. So excited to read them, and I think her fiction would be a great place to start because it does take me a lot of time to get into essays as well. So yeah, again, don't know too much about it, but excited to read it. A lot of the books that you'll see here I don't know too much about, but I'm just really happy to have them in my collection, so excuse me for that, and maybe once I read them I can talk to you about them more in depth. So then the last thrifted book that I have is Tamas by Bisham Sani. This is the winner of the Sahitya Academy Award. Again, another partition book. I really need to know more about my own country, is something that I've realized in this year. There's a lot of cultural, historical, sociological things that have happened in my country's history that I just know the bare bones of it, and I want to know more, I want to read more, and I think fiction is a great place to start for me. I'm sorry if my video today is a little disjointed. I'm not feeling the best, but I did want to talk about books to kind of cheer up a little, so maybe as I proceed I become a little happier, but for right now I'm a little down and out in terms of my mood and my health in general, so yeah, please excuse that. So yeah, those were all the thrifted books. Then I have a couple of books to talk about which I bought from a few independent booksellers here in Mumbai. Let me show you. The first one that I have is Shadow City, A Woman Walks Kabul. This is written by Taran N. Khan, and I had gone to Trilogy in Bandra, which is my favorite place. It's also my library, and I started talking to the owner. Her name is Mithila, and we were just talking about books, etc. And she pulled out like so many books for me to when I said that I'm slowly starting to read non-fiction as well, and she recommended this particular book as one of her absolute favorites. So this is about a woman who returns to Kabul, Afghanistan, after quite a bit of a break, and she discovers that the city that there is no longer resembles the city that she had originally left. So she just walks around Kabul, collects stories, collects memories of neighborhoods, memories of communities, and yeah, that's what the book is about. Then another book I picked up is Memorial by Brian Washington. I picked this up just last weekend in Tidal Waves in Bandra, Mumbai, and I have been wanting to have this book for so long because I've heard such great things about it. This is a story of a gay couple who've been living together for quite a bit, and they kind of like lost that spark, that chemistry, that love. Like they're very comfortable living with each other now. And one day one of them has to go to Japan to care for his ailing father, and when he leaves, his mother comes to town and stays with his partner. So that's also an interesting dynamic which develops. So it sounds very interesting, this entire setting. I think, like, you know, you have to live with your partner's mother when your partner's not there, and yeah, I've heard amazing things about it, and I've heard amazing things about the writer, and very excited to try this. Let's move to the biggest chunk of his haul, which is all Westland books, and in that I think I'll talk about all the non-fictions that I've bought. Westland had an imprint known as Context Books, where they would put out really amazing non-fiction works, and they've put out quite a few of controversial books in the recent months about the government, about the economy, about the state of the country as is. The first one is a memoir. This is It's All in Your Head, M by Manjari Indurkar. This is the story about, sorry, it's not a story. So Manjari Indurkar was a 20-something woman living apart from her family when suddenly one day she realizes that everything's not all well with her body. And she thinks she's had a very happy childhood with a normal supportive parents, and she can't understand why this is happening to her, and she realizes that she has to face up to the realities of what her body went through, about the trauma that she went through. And this is kind of like that coming of age memoir that she's written about her journey to that point, and yeah, and what made her come to that point. So then another book is 9 rupees an hour by Aparna Karthikeyan. This book has a set of short stories of people around India whose livelihoods, whose careers. Then another book I picked out is 9 rupees to an hour by Aparna Karthikeyan, and this book is a collection of stories of people across India who are losing their livelihood to urban how do you put it, to urbanization. Like for example, I hope you know this is a toddy tapper. So these toddy trappers are people who climb up coconut trees and palm toddy trees to tap the toddy and sell them, and it's a very dangerous, it's a very accurate profession, because they have to be of a certain age to be the best toddy that they can tap, and they can charge for it. And this of course is a disappearing art and a craft, because you know, when you wouldn't want your children to do the same kind of menial, not exactly menial, but like hard labor work that you're doing, right? You would want them to get an education, to get an office job, because that is viewed as the epitome of success, epitome of professional success. So there are not enough toddy tappers left in India, and it is a dying art. And as soon as I saw this cover, I had hoped that it would have more about toddy tappers of India, and also has more stories about people like that who are losing their livelihoods to this march of urbanization. So yeah, I think an important book to read. Then I picked up The Silent Coup by Josie Joseph. This is a very popular book in India right now, and I'm also going to be reading this in this month and the next month because I am part of this Instagram group where we do a read along of non-fiction books, and I'm hoping to crack open into this soon enough. I haven't yet. This is about how basically the Indian military and the Indian police state has developed since independence, and how they're actually very, very powerful and all pervasive in all aspects of the administration, of the judiciary, about and the functioning of the country as a whole. India as a country has never seen a military coup. Our constitution has given us a very, very strong parliamentary system which is accountable to the people and only to the people, and a military insurgency is kind of difficult, but I think this book talks about how the military has found ways and means to override the constitutional protection and the constitutional measures that have been taken to prevent exactly that from happening. So yeah, I think an important book for the times. That's all I'm going to say. Then I have The Courtesan, the Mahatma and the Italian Brahmin by Manu S. Pillai. Manu S. Pillai is a very famous Indian historian, and his books are very, very, very well appreciated. They're well known, and I've never read him, and I thought I should give him a go. And when I saw this on the catalogue of the Westland books, I thought of picking it up, though I don't think Manu S. Pillai will have any problem in finding a new publisher, but I still thought it would be nice to have this book in my collection and finally get to read his works. This is basically tales from Indian history. So it covers a multitude of different essays and stories about how, for example, we discovered football, about Lord Curzon's famed dislike for monuments, about how the railway system in India came to be, and things like that. So again, history is a area that I am woefully behind on, and I would like to remedy that. So yes. Last non-fiction book that I have from Westland is Suchitra Vijayan's Midnight Borders. This is a collection of stories, essays, etc. Written about the people who live on the borders of India. Now, India's borders always have had, I think, a very fractured relationship with the rest of the country, you know, the main, like the kind of like the heartland, specifically the northern borders, because we have borders with Pakistan, we have China, we have Bangladesh, we have Bhutan, we have Nepal, etc. And specifically relating to China and Pakistan, it's always been a contentious issue back here in the government, with the politicians of today, etc. But Suchitra Vijayan talks about how decisions made in politics actually affect the people who live there in their daily lives, in how they go about their day, etc. Moving on to my fiction collection, the first book that I want to talk about is a book that I've actually read from Westland's catalogue and I absolutely love. This is Milk Teeth by Amrita Mahale. I've read this, I had an ebook of this, I think, and when I realized that this was also a Westland book and it might go out of print, I needed to have a physical copy of this. This is the story of Matunga in Mumbai, which is a locality here, and this is about Matunga in the 90s, when it saw a lot of change in terms of how the people who were living there were mostly Goan Christian Brahmins, and how they have had to uproot because of urbanization. All their like older apartments were demolished to build these high rises, etc., and how it impacted them. And it also tells the story about, it's the story about two childhood friends who grew up together. I have not grown up in Mumbai. I have only come here in my adult life, and I've fallen in love with the city, very honestly. And to read about a Mumbai which is before me, a Mumbai which I no longer honestly know because it's been wiped out by urbanization, is just so charming to me. I wanted to live in that era. I wanted to see Mumbai in that era when I read this book, and I just think a book which can transport you through time is just one of the most beautiful things on this earth. And yeah, I needed a physical copy of this. Then I have a graphic novel. I don't know if you could call this a graphic novel, but I'm going to call it a graphic novel. It's my first graphic novel purchase, and this is Incantations Over Water by Sharanya Manivannan. I've talked about Sharanya Manivannan on this channel a lot because I read one book of hers, which is right here, yeah, The Queen of Jasmine Country. Absolutely loved that book. It was one of my favorites for 2021, and I vowed to myself that I'll buy and read everything that Sharanya Manivannan has written. And when I first saw that this was a graphic novel, I was a little skeptical on buying it because I'm not really a graphic novel person, but this also belongs to Westland, and this also might just get go out of print very soon, so I wanted it, and I have it now, and I really don't know anything about it, and that's how I want to go into it as well, because that's how I went into Queen of Jasmine Country as well, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing and her storytelling, etc. So that's how I'll go into this as well. So I don't know what it is about, and I'll keep it that way. Then I have Hellfire by Lisa Ghazi. This has been translated from the Bengali by Shabnam Nadia, and this apparently is kind of like a thriller mystery kind of book. It's about this girl who has had a very protected life. Like, she's never really stepped out of her home alone. She's never had to do things alone, and it opens on with her very first solo expedition to the market, and this is her 40th birthday. So when she steps out with this excitement that there's so many first time things that she'll get to do, and this will be a day that she'll never forget, and things kind of take a darker, deeper turn. And yeah, I've heard that this book is very racy and it has a very thriller vibe to it, and again, I don't want to spoil it for myself, so I resisted myself from reading more about it, but very excited to get into this soon. Then the next book that I have is Iman by Manoranjan Vyapari. It's been translated from the Bengali version. It's been translated from Bengali by Arunava Sinha. Manoranjan Vyapari wrote a book called There's Gunpowder in the Air a few years ago, and it was so the rage among the reading community. I think it won a couple of awards as well, but I think this is his latest work. So this is the story about a young boy who actually was born in prison because his mother was serving time for murdering his father, and she passes away when he's 6, and he grows up spending his time between a juvenile home and the prison. When he turns 18, I think when he no longer has a home to turn to, I think when he turns 18, he exits the prison and he ends up in the railway station as a rag picker, and that's the extent that I know about this book. So yeah, again, a book for posterity's sake, more for me. Don't really know too much about it, and that's how I want to keep it. Then I have Cupboard by K.R. Meera. This has been translated from the Malayalam by Nisha Susan. Again, a book that I saw on Twitter and Instagram a lot when the Westland news was announced, and I just bought it because of just how much people loved it, and also because of the cover. I think it's absolutely beautiful. The next book that I have is The Lesbian Cow and Other Stories by Indu Menon, and it's been translated from the Malayalam by Nandakumar K. Honestly, firstly, I picked this out because of the cover. Just look at the cover. It looks so interesting, and just the title as well looks so interesting. But again, this was a book that was recommended by a lot of people when the news of Westland came out, and I was just very interested in reading about it, and it's a bunch of short stories, so I hope to get into it soon. Don't know too much about it, but the cover of it is absolutely gorgeous, if I may say so myself. So yeah. Then the last couple of books are from the northeast of India. The first one is Peace Has Come by Parismita Singh. This was recommended to me again by Mithila at Trilogy, and she said that this was one of the best northeast books that she has read, and I would take her recommendations always, because I mean, she owns a bookstore, right? I'm sure she has a lot more perspective on books than I have. So yeah, when she said that she will absolutely recommend this over the rest of the fiction catalogue of Westland, I just picked it up, and I have no idea what it is about, but I'm very excited to find out about it. Last book that I have for the purposes of this video is this Chongster. Just take a look at that. It's a big one. This is Funeral Nights by, and I'm going to murder this name, so apologies in advance for that. This is by Kinfam Singh Nongkirin. And again, a Westland book, and again, a book set in the Northeast. I think this is set in Shillong in Meghalaya. And yeah, it's about a group of friends who travel from Shillong to a remote part of West Khasi Hills to witness the Feast of the Dead, which is a unique 6-day-long funeral ceremony of the Lingangams, a Khasi subtribe. So yeah, again, I don't think I've ever read a Northeast book. I don't know, please don't quote me on that, but I knew I had to buy this, and I knew I will have to carve out some major time to get through this Chongster. So yes, and yeah, those are all the books that I have for you. This was a very big haul. I feel like I've been talking for an hour at least, and it's going to be a challenge to edit, but let's see. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the books that I've had to show you, and hopefully I'll talk to you more about them when I get to them. If you are still around, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. It means the world to me that you're still here and you're still watching, and I hope to be back very soon. Bye.